Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Purity After Promiscuity podcast, where we are redefining a woman's worth. I am your host, Janelle Renee. Hey, girl, hey. How y'all doing out there in these streets? I hope life is treating you well. You're enjoying the summer. I hope that you're doing some fun things. You're taking time to vacation, to spend time with family, to be intentional, just to take time off from your job and all the obligations because you deserve it, sis. And so I'm just so excited for today's episode. I want to say thank you to all my little listeners. Thank you to my new listeners. You guys continue to help me to get on here each and every week, each and every time I'm able to come do another episode. It's with you all in mind. So if you would like to partner with me, all I'm asking is for you to subscribe, follow, whatever platform that you're listening on. If you can subscribe, follow, you can leave a comment, share with your community, as well as leave a review. I'm looking to get in front of more people so more people are able to be blessed, more daughters of God, where women are able to redefine their worth, to walk in their true worth, walk unapologetically, confidently in who God created them to be in the name of Jesus. Okay? So if that sounds like you join the community, and like I said, like, subscribe, share, follow. And so without further ado, we are going to get into today's episode called Family Ties. But before we get started, I will release the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey girl, it has been a time. Okay? I don't know about y'all, but it seems like there has been so much family stuff coming up in my life. And it is just like, it just seems like, I don't know if there's been some kind of shift in the spirit realm or what, but something has happened and it has caused there to become a lot of, different circumstances and situations to arise that were unexpected, things that appear to be very, serious in nature. We got some reports of family members that are terminally ill. My father has been given a report, that he has a terminal illness. We just had a family members have a sudden situation over the weekend, end up in ICU, and was, really things looked at very dire. But God, we believed, we prayed, I decreed, and today she's doing 100% better. She still, is recovering, but she is so much better from what she was yesterday. So we thank God for that. And so it has just been like some things like family things come up, as far as different family members being diagnosed with different serious illnesses, and then just kind of like some family stuff. You know what I mean? Some family stuff has come to the surface, and I think some of these diagnoses and some of the things that family members are dealing with, kind of, I think, is causing some of the unsaid and unspoken and uncovered things to come to the surface. I don't know if you guys are like me, but my family, there tends to be a lot of things that are kind of kept hidden. There are a lot of things that people don't talk about, a lot of things that are just kind of swept under the rug. And in our culture, as Black people, we tend to kind of move like that. We like to say what goes on in my house stays in my house. We like to say things like, we don't tell people, we don't talk to people, we don't talk to, strangers or, a counselor or people, put people in our business and things of that nature. And that is good to an extent. But I believe that it gets very dysfunctional and toxic when it's at the detriment of others and their safety or even just the family dynamic. Okay. And so in these last like weeks, especially this last week, I feel like there's been a burden, like there's some burden that has been placed on me for my family. And I have really been questioning a lot of things in my family and my bloodline, on both sides. More so my mom's side, because that's the side I'm more familiar with. I don't know much about my father's side. But over the years, I've just been someone who the Lord has allowed me to see certain patterns. He's allowed me to have certain revelation, or, be sensitive to the reality of certain things, and cycles in our bloodline. And, I have been, questioning other family members about it, trying to get information. There's a lot of blanks when it comes to our family. There's a lot of blanks when it comes to our family tree. And it's just like, it's almost like something off of a television show, y'all, because it's like some of it just makes no sense. Like I have a whole side of family that I don't know, right? Like I don't know nothing about my great grandfather, like my grandmother's father. Like she never talked about him, never mentioned him. He passed away the same year I was born, so I never met him, I don't think. And so like the his whole family, the other siblings, my grandma and them have, and all that. I've never met them. I don't know who they are. They are, I'm sure, here in the same city. And I mean, I wouldn't know them if they walked down the street. Same thing, when it comes to like other like parts of my family, it's just like we know nothing. Like so I have family out there, like these people, I can have family that's wealthy, I can have family that has property, I could have an inheritance out there, or I could just have people that I just would want to know and meet and connect with, and as well as my children. And so it's very difficult because it's like when you think about that, and when you think about your generations and your legacy, when you're trying to understand who you are, where you come from, especially when you have children or you want to have children, and you want to kind of have those things solidified so you understand what are you going to be bringing children into, what are you passing along, and so when you have a lot of blanks and you can't answer a lot of those questions, that is very difficult because you just have this huge question mark in the back of your mind all the time. And then for my family, there's so, not to say there's no good, because there is, but there's so much things that are like very, very just, I want to say just not good, right? There's certain cycles, there's certain patterns, there's certain leans and propensity to certain sins that is like prevalent and evident and very strong in my bloodline. And it's like, God, why? And I always wonder, like, well, what is the good? Because you can clearly see the not good, right? You see the people in bondage to, idolatry. You see the people in bondage to sexual perversion. You see people in bondage through to, poverty and fatherlessness and broken and failed relationships and divorce and singleness and, anti-success, never really, reaching a height of success, always kind of in a cycle of, robbing Peter to pay Paul, never really having a fruitful life, let's just to say fruitful life. And you wonder to yourself, like, why is everybody comfortable? Right? Why is everybody comfortable living like that? Why is nobody ever challenging or questioning, or maybe even just doing something to try to change the narrative? And so it has been like that for, I think the realization came to me about 10 years ago when I started really asking questions, because I guess that's when the burden began. And I started to look at my family and my generations, and I started to go to like the matriarchs of my family to ask, to gain more information. Like, hey, is there anybody in our family that has success or is fruitful, or is living a life of in that is good and it's in righteousness, is not connected to some type of criminal activity, or some other means of gaining some type of monetary gain and stuff like that. So just kind of like being honest, like taking in account, because now I got children and I got me, and I'm trying to figure me out. I'm trying to figure out, why do I make the decisions I make? Why am I attracted to the kind of man I'm attracted to? Why do I end up in the certain cycles that I end up in? Why do I why am I starting to see certain traits in my children? Like, so you a lot of times it's like you'll just become more aware of things, because you're like, wait a minute, like something, I understand that, like, there's a connection here. And over the years, I'm gonna be honest, I've done a very poor job. I've done a very poor job of really trying to extend the gospel to my family, to get my family saved and healed. And of course, I can't make anybody, but as much as they know that I go to church, they know that, I prioritize Christ, that I live a life according to the word, that the person I used to be when I was in these streets, when I was ripping and running the streets, doing all these crazy things, that I'm no longer that person. As a parent, they know I'm, in Bible study, so they know my lifestyle and they're used to that. But in no way have I really, really invited them in or extended an invitation to them. I have asked them to come to church, here and there, like certain family members. But as far as truly really just talking to them about their salvation, about the reality of heaven and hell, about Jesus, and kind of like really inviting them into what Jesus has done for me, like the ways that he has showed up in my life, the ways the Lord has performed miracles in my life, the way that the reality of the word has become true, like my experiences and stuff like that. I'm quick to share that with other people. Like I'll get on here on a podcast and I don't even know none of y'all. I may never know y'all, I may never meet y'all, but I'll get on here and I'll share, I'll share so I can encourage, so I can, equip, edify, exhort, and even to maybe help someone to be drawn to Christ. But I don't do that with my own family, and I'm starting to question that, because I'm looking at the state of my loved ones, the people that I'm connected to by blood, the people that I love, like the people that I share DNA with, right? And I'm starting to look at them and I'm like, Lord, I care about them. I care about, their souls. I care about, where they spend eternity, whether they realize heaven and hell is real, whether they realize the only way to the Father is through the Son, Jesus Christ. There is not many ways. You can't travel your own path and think that you're going to find your way to God. But just really being so passionate not to see them perish, because God says in the word, it says he wills that none shall perish and that all come to repentance. And I'm starting to feel the burden, especially as I have family members that are elderly, being diagnosed with terminal illnesses, and even if they had not been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and first and foremost, we know God is a healer, right? There's no doubt in my mind. If it's the will of God, if that's what he desires, if he wants to heal, he will heal. He can, he is able. We know the reality is he doesn't always heal for whatever reason. We don't know. But I know he can. And I'm confident that if that is his will, he will do so. But even if they were never diagnosed with a terminal illness, they're more closer to the end of their lifespan than not. Once you get in your 70s, 80s, you're kind of like, the clock is starting to wind down. And just the reality, like, Lord, I haven't spent enough time. I haven't sowed seeds. I haven't extended the gospel. I haven't told them about what you've done for me. And I'm like, God, I'm starting to feel like, I need to do better. Like I need to do my part. I don't want to be so like focused on self that I forget those that are around me. You know what I mean? Like it's not good enough for just me to go to the kingdom. It's not good enough for just me to be saved. But what about my loved ones? And even though they may, not live the life that I'm living right now, and maybe it don't look like they want no parts of God, but who am I to say? It's like if I just sow the seed, I can plant, somebody else can water, God can provide the increase, but I'm not even planting. And I don't know where that came from, because I'm like, this is my family. This is the people that I've grown up with. These are people that I know, that I love. These are the people that, I've spent time with. These are the people that are connected to me, that, you know what I mean? So it's like, why haven't I felt compelled? Why have I not had, such a passion and a concern for them and their souls, that I have not extended the gospel? And sometimes I think, is it because, like, I don't know, is it something, I don't even know, y'all. I'm gonna be honest, like I'm trying to understand it. Like why would that be my position when I know Like I was wretched and undone too. Just like what the things that my family do, I was doing the same things, probably even worse, to be honest. Some of the things I was doing, and yet and still, God still had mercy on me. He still saw fit to save me. He saw fit to, to have a grace, give me grace and mercy, and here I am, like not even thinking that the people that I am connected to and love the most is even worthy to even hear, the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I'm like, Lord, I don't want to get to the end and I have to give an account of why I let my own family perish. Like, of course I can't make them, but at least I can attempt to extend the gospel. I can give them the seed, and it's up to them what they do with it. But at some point, things got to shift. These are your family ties. These are my family ties. These are the people that God saw fit to put us in this DNA, in this family, right? In this family line for whatever reason. God already knew what they had going on. He knew what the sin was going to be, what the iniquity. He knew what the forefathers and the ancestors and the descendants was going to do, and he still allowed you, he allowed me to be born in his family because he said, somebody got to rise up. Because as I examined my bloodline, and I had a conversation with the Lord the other day, and I was so burdened, and I felt I was so grieved to the point of tears, because I'm like, Lord, why has no one else rose up? Why has no one else rose up to contend with this cycle, to contend with the generational curse, to contend with the stronghold? Because it has perpetuated from generation to generation, and now here we are, 3, 4, 5 generations in, and we still see the patterns and the cycles. It's like, why? Why had nobody's eyes been opened enough? Why had nobody had that call? Why did it not call unto them, Lord? Why? Why is it that it takes for me to try to come and fight against and undo and war against and tear down things that has been established for decades, for generations? You're talking about a generation is 40 years, and you have multiple generations, and it's like I have sat here and I just looked at the people before me, and I'm like, everybody seemed like they were they just were overtaken. Like they just, like, whatever the enemy did in life, to whatever soul seed that he sowed in their life to create some type of damage and some type of issue and some type of brokenness and some type of trauma and some type of mental illness or some type of demonic oppression, and in some cases maybe demonic possession. Whatever he did, it's like they never got out. They died like that. And it's like, oh, how disheartening, how heartbreaking, how gut wrenching to know that people, your family, your loved ones, a lot died, never knowing what true freedom is, never knowing what that abundant life is, never knowing what the peace that surpasses all understanding is, never knowing what having their soul restored and being complete in Christ is, never knowing the fullness of who God is and who they are, never walking in destiny and purpose, but just living, and then boom, life is over and there's nothing left. No real legacy, no real inheritance is passed down. It's just a cycle. It's just a cycle. It's just hurt. It's just pain. It's just dysfunction. It's toxicity. And it's like, God, why? These are our family ties. And not everybody, this is not your story. I get it. Be blessed. Understand you are blessed. Give God glory that you may not have this fight. Like, this may not be what you now have this had been put in your lap, right? Be grateful. Be grateful that maybe somebody before you was chosen. They had the burden. They had their eyes open to see the things in the family that needed to be torn down, and they went before you and they did the work. Praise God. But there's many of us that the people before us, my God, I'm about to just, oh Lord, I'm about to burst out in tears. The people before us didn't get it. They couldn't see it. The enemy fought them hard, and so I don't blame them, because I don't know what they went through. I only hear a fraction of some of the stories, but I don't know the fullness. I didn't know them. I didn't meet them. I was either not born or I was too young. I don't know. But what I do know is the enemy doesn't play fair. What I do know is he'll try to kill, steal, and destroy. He'll try to do it while you're in utero. That's why we have so many people get abortions. He'll try to have it done while you're in infancy. That's why infants get killed. That's why babies get abused. They get molested. This is why all these kind of evil things happen. He'll try to do it in your adolescence. He'll try to do it whenever. And if he can't do it then, he'll try to do it when you're a teenager. If he can't do it then, he'll try to do it while you're a young adult. If he can't do it then, he'll try to do it when you're an adult. He don't let up. And some of our family lost the battle, y'all. And it's not their fault. It's not on purpose. We can't blame them. They couldn't do it. I only know a fraction, a figment of what some of the people in my family went to, and went through, and I know I've gone through some things. And some of y'all know, you can listen to many episodes on this podcast. I'm 8 seasons in since 2021. I have given my testimonies up and down. I've been very honest, open, and transparent on this podcast. I have gone through some things that I honestly did not think I was going to recover from, if I'm totally honest. And I'm sure it was some things that the enemy didn't think I was going to recover from. I'm sure some of the same ways that he kept my other family and descendants and those that came before me in bondage is some of the same things he did to me in hopes that it was going to completely take me out. And in some ways, I feel like even if it didn't take me physically out, because I'm still here and I'm still breathing, but a part of it has taken some of my faith out. It's taken some of my belief out. It's taken some of my hope out. So it's like the enemy he's so diabolical. He's so evil that it's like he don't even gotta take you physically out. If he could literally just get your hope, if he can get your faith, if he can get your belief, he got you. So I can only imagine the things that they experienced and what they were up against. But here we are. We're in 2026. Everybody listening on the other side of this podcast, you're alive. You're here. It's like it's not always fair. Like life just ain't fair. I wish it was. My God, it's not always fair. But some of us, it is the call. It is the call for you to rise up and be the bloodline breaker, for you to rise up and break the cycles, for you to fight the things in your bloodline so your children and your children's children don't have to fight it. And I know that it's like, God, why me? Lord, I didn't want this. Why couldn't somebody else before me? But we may not never know those answers. But why not you? Why not me? And the greatest way we can fight the enemy is extending the gospel to those that we love, to our loved ones, or just giving testimony. Tell your testimony to your family. Tell them the good things that Jesus done for you, how he saved you, how he brought you out, how he brought you out of darkness and put you in and brought you into his marvelous light. They need to hear it and know maybe in that moment they won't get saved. That's okay. But you sowed a seed. It's like a farmer. The farmer go out, he till the ground, and he plant the seed. He don't always know if the seed gonna take root and something's gonna grow from it. But by faith, he at least plant the seed. So it's like in faith, we gotta plant the seeds. In faith, we gotta intercede for our bloodline, for our families. In faith, we gotta fight, try to help by the grace of God, by the power of God, with the help of God, to fight against these things that is in our bloodline that has been rooted. The many cycles, the many patterns, the many propensities to certain sins. We got to come against that. We got to say no. We got to say stop with us no matter how hard it is. Y'all have no idea. Y'all have no clue. I really, 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 really wish that I could articulate the things that I deal with in such a way that that you can really understand it, that you can feel what I'm talking about. And maybe some of you do, because maybe y'all have a similar experience, but like I'm talking about real warfare. I'm talking about real attacks. I'm talking about I woke up this morning to an attack. I'm talking about, things coming in and violating me and touching me and having sex with me and taking, because I already know that they're not just coming to have sex with you because they want to have pleasure. Absolutely not. They coming because they're depositing something in you, or they're taking something from you. They're taking your bodily fluids, your DNA. Sometimes they want to take your virtue. They want to take your purpose, your destiny, whatever they can. And they use intercourse. Like, and I'm constantly having to deal with this. And sometimes I go periods of time where it doesn't happen, and I get hope. Like, I literally get a little hope, like, okay, Lord, maybe the last warfare I did worked. Maybe the last deliverance I did worked. Maybe the last, prayer I did work. Maybe the last renunciation, the last breaking of covenant work. And so then I start feeling like, okay, whoo, I could breathe. All right, finally, because you're talking about like decades of this, okay? And then boom, here it go, happen again. Do you know how difficult it is, time after time after time, to bounce back from that? To still believe, to still hope, to still have faith, to still trust God, to still believe God is good, to still believe God is fighting for me, that He loves me, that He's helping me, that He's not forsaking me. Do you know how hard it is? Do you know? You can't even imagine, because it doesn't make sense to me. My mind can't understand it. Like, how do it seem like the enemy got this much power? How do it seem like no matter what I do, no matter how much I wield my spiritual weapons, some way, somehow these demonic forces keep coming in and they're able to attack me in such a way? But I know one thing for sure, two things for certain. If I give up, that's worse. Even though on most occasions, honestly, I want to give up. Like, literally. I just want to throw in the towel and say, forget this, because this is too hard. This don't make no sense. The fight shouldn't be like this. Like this, I shouldn't still be dealing with this. This is crazy. Like, God, I mean, I've done everything I know to do, that obviously just maybe you don't want me free. Like, I don't know. And some days it's easier. It's easier just to say I want to say I give up. I'm done. I quit. I don't even want to fight no more, because I'm tired. I'm tired of dealing with this. I'm tired of feeling like this. I'm tired of going through this. But then I have to think, like, dang, I got 3 children. Well, I got 3 offspring, because they not little kids no more. But I got legacy, and it's like, dang. So if I don't keep fighting, then they gonna have to fight it. And maybe they'll be able to fight it, and maybe not. So I just ask that you stop and think on this. Selah. Just stop and think about it. Think about your family. Think about your generations. Think about the people that you're connected to by blood, and like really those relationships and really that dynamic. And are you doing everything you can do? Are you really loving them by extending the best and greatest gift you could ever give them, which is the gospel? Are you telling them about Jesus? Are you living your life before them to the point that they would want to know the God that you serve? Are you still in the fight? Or have you just given up because it's too hard? Because the enemy keep knocking you down. Because it doesn't seem like nothing is working. So you just like, I don't even want to do this anymore. And meanwhile, now you're just gonna pass it along to the next generation to have to try to fight. It's family ties. We don't all get to pick our family. We don't get to choose. We don't all have the greatest family, but they're family nonetheless. Hmm. I don't know, guys. This one hit deep. It hit hard because this is my reality, and I'm dealing with some important decisions that I got to make and some changes that I got to make quickly. So, whatever time I have with certain family members, that I am able to maximize it and do my part. Tell them about the Lord God, not being ashamed of Christ, not being ashamed of the gospel. Because if we're ashamed of God before men, then He will be ashamed of us. We can't think that we can hide our gospel, our faith. We can't hide, our testimony. It's not ours to hide, and we so freely can give it to people who are not connected to us. But what about those that are? So. That's today's episode, Family Ties. I know it was a little deep. Definitely got very emotional for me, but I think this is one that is meant. This must be the heart of God right now. I believe God is for the family. He wants to restore the family. He wants to reconcile the family, but it takes somebody to rise up to say they'll be the one. They'll be the one to want to go back and get the others. Joseph, he was able to go ahead, and get into Pharaoh's in the castle in the palace with Pharaoh and become second in command, just so his dad and his brothers and his family was able to receive the benefit of his position. It wasn't about him. It was always for him to be able to bring salvation to those that are still going to be back in, like they were still in a place where there was famine, so they was experiencing the effects of the famine, things drying up, there not being enough, not knowing where the next meal was going to come from. They were being impacted by the economy shift due to the famine, and it was because Joseph was put in position that they were able to receive sustenance. Sometimes God is like, the reason why your family's dynamic ain't shifted, the reason why the financial climate of your family ain't shifted, the reason why the relational connections ain't shifted, because you ain't got in position. Because I haven't got in position. So I don't want to keep going, y'all, because I don't want to make this episode too long. But I'm gonna stop you here, and I just say, stay live, think on it, stop, think on it, just meditate on it, ponder on it, and let the Lord speak to you concerning you and your family. So I just want to remind you all that your past does not define you. It develops you, and you are worthy.